So I've never had this happen during a article read. I had one strong opinion at the beginning of the experience, and I ended completely different. This is a wild ride, what goes on with Redis. All right, I know I'm a little late to the party, but apparently Redis has adopted some dual source available licensing thing. Okay, so I actually haven't watched any of this, but or I haven't read on anything, and we haven't watched any videos. We do have potentially a video somewhere on here. Yeah, the downfall of Redis. Man, it sounds, we have the PR that it happened with, and we have a specific comment that apparently is pretty intense about it all, but we will start right here with the actual release, and then we're going to go forward. Maybe we'll look at the video, maybe we're going to look at the GitHub issue, maybe we'll do all of them, okay? Let's just run hey, calm down, okay? I see people being like, you didn't even watch the video does it. Let's get the whole thing. Let's get the whole thing in, okay? Calm down. Future Redis releases will continue to offer free and permissive use of the source code under dual RSA LV2 and SSP LV1 licenses. So I've never even heard of these licenses. I mean, this one sounds like an encryption algorithm. This thing sounds like something my wife has a subscription to. I don't know what this... What is this? These releases will combine advanced data types and processing engines previously only available in the Redis stack. I don't even know. What are we trying to say? Okay, anyway, so things happen. Beginning today, all future versions of Redis will be released with source-available licenses. Starting with Redis 7.4, Redis will be dual licensed under the Redis source-available license and the server-side public license. Consequently, Redis will no longer be distributed under the three-clause Berkeley Software Distribution, BSD. From day one, Redis has provided a foundation of performance and simplicity for the applications and data infrastructure that power the modern internet. Now, 15 years later, we're proud to serve millions of developers across the globe by supporting real-time applications the world depends on every day. We have already implemented dual licensing for our advanced Redis modules under the Redis Stack distribution, which has been well received by the community. Is this, by the way, is this the truth? Are people happy in the advanced Redis modules that they got this new licensing? In fact, more than 50% of Redis I/O downloads from Redis 6 and beyond come from Redis Stack. We now believe that extending this licensing to Redis itself will enable us to continue to evolve the most holistic set of data models, processing engines, and developer capabilities for our users. All right, so I guess I have a question right away with what they're saying. Is what they're saying this? Hey, we've been developing this product for 15 years, and we've been unable to effectively monetize this well? Because to me, I assume this licensing is for some sort of monetization. And we're looking for a new way to monetize, and thus, we're not even talking about like our advanced modules. We're talking about Redis itself. We want to be able to move it into such a place that commercially using Redis will cost you money. Yes, they need money because they can't maintain the product anymore. That's fair. Is this another rug pull in software? 15 years is entirely too long of a long con. That's a long con. Okay, can we all agree that this is a long con right here? So no, my guess is this is not a rug pull. My guess is that that's exactly how boomers operate. They think ahead for decades. They weren't even boomers back then, okay? They weren't even boomers, okay? The term didn't even exist when they did it. It's to extract money from Amazon. I don't know if Netflix uses Redis or some version of Redis. I'm sure they do. I think every big company uses Redis pretty much. And so my assumption is that the point is to be able to extract money out of larger corporations, correct? Redis is effectively everywhere. And so by doing that, that's my assumption behind this. Go horse Redis, yeah. Rent-seeking behavior. Well, it's not rent-seeking behavior. So let's just pretend that what I've said so far is absolutely and perfectly correct. This is the same argument that we all recognize and have said about open source, which is open source is largely a thankless job in which people will not support it, right? Do you think that they would have done this if everybody who used it commercially, all the companies who used it, all the individuals who used it and had their problem solved, they all sent them some amount of cash proportionate based on their usage and usefulness? Do you think this would have happened? My guess is probably not, but maybe still it would have happened in an effort to kind of grab bag any money you can. But it's truly the problem of open source is that whenever you have a good product that everybody uses, nobody appreciates it. And when nobody appreciates it, it just leads to especially something like Redis, where they need to have money to develop it. I'm not saying what they're doing is good behavior. I'm not even trying to justify their good behavior. I'm just trying to rationalize why this behavior exists. Do I think it's good? I mean, the hard part is you built it open for people to use. You got a bunch of people and companies to use it, and now you're changing it. I can see why people would feel like this is a rug pull. I can see why people would feel this is really bad, right? The new source available licenses allow us to sustainably provide permissive use of our source code. We're leading Redis into its next phase of development as a real-time data platform with a unified set of clients, tools, and core Redis product offerings. The Redis source code, yes, okay. There you go, Redis product offerings, how they make money, right? It stinks, but it's not morally wrong or anything. Yeah, it's hard for me to justify, it's hard for me to say what they're doing is, well, yeah, it's hard. I'd say that this is an extremely, it's not, see, okay, I know you're probably just trying to get me to get all upset, but this really isn't don't stop it with the capitalism. This is not a capitalism problem, right? This is the fact that people have been working on a product for free for what appears to be a decade and a half, right? I'm sure AOL take. This is such an AOL take. It's greed, isn't it? This really is the shambles. I mean, if you look at the XZ exploit, it's because one person was exploited for their work, got burnt out, got pressured into giving up full and unified control, and Jaya Tan gave us the biggest backdoor wang we've ever received in our lifetime. Luckily, that backdoor wang got caught. By the way, if you don't know the backdoor wang reference, that is a Sam Bankman-Fried reference. It sounds like how it sounds, okay? So just deal with it. Anyways, so you get the idea. You get the idea. The Redis source code will continue to be freely available to developers, customers, and partners through the Redis Community Edition. They're still offering Redis Community Edition. Is that for free? Future Redis source available versions will unify core Redis with Redis Stack. So Redis Stack must be, because they're doing capital S on this one, this must be like their commercial product, including search, JSON, vector, probabilistic, and time series data models in one free, easy-to-use package as now downloadable software. This will allow anyone to easily use Redis across a variety of contexts, including as high-performance key value and document store, a powerful query engine, and a low-latency vector database powering generative AI applications. Damn, even snuck AI in there. Primogen, we've seen it so many times and we'll see it again. But you either change the license and make money or you stop developing. I think this is a fair statement, right? Which is that I don't think it's unreasonable to say that people shouldn't be forced to create and maintain free products that you use, right? Because that's kind of the inverse of this. And that's where this moral gray ground is for me, because I can't justify. I don't know how to justify it. Tencent and Amazon did. It doesn't matter. They helped. I get it. They helped, but that doesn't justify it. Like, right? You're justifying the fact that you think it should be something different. It's not your product. It's not your choice to make. Is it shitty that they did this? Yes, I don't think it's great where a bunch of these people now feel like they have to choose a forked version of Redis or not. And guess what's going to happen? You know the community fork that's going to come out for Redis? It's going to have the same problem. Do you think that just by forking it and a bunch of highly motivated individuals won't eventually fall into the same problem? Amazon already backed this fork. So Amazon's already backed the fork. I wonder what it means for Amazon to do this. Really, obviously, Amazon did this because it's probably very, very valuable. It probably would cost them so much dang money that they made this choice, right? Which is they can pay significantly less money by supporting a fork. Which, I mean, can we all take a step for just a second and realize also the shittiness of that? Right? Can we minimally understand the kind of shittiness of that? Right? That Amazon is using something and they're able to effectively pay less by supporting someone to fork it and move forward with their support, right? I mean, I don't think any of it is like, there's not like some sort of moral high ground. I don't think there's a moral high ground argument here. Why wouldn't they do that? No, I agree. It makes sense that they did it because monetarily it probably it probably makes more sense. Yeah, it might as well support the original creators. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole problem here. This is the problem I generally have with these kind of changes, is that you'll see people that get pissed off like about AI generating art that's in the style of somebody else, or generating art that's been trained off of all these things. And like, why wouldn't you just support the original creators? And then you have things like this where it is a similar-esque vein where the original creators, despite them not, I'm still on your team. I don't think it's good. I think what they're doing is not great. But at the same time, can you not see how you're not supporting the original creators here? A lot of people did a lot of free work. The hard part is free and open source software is genuinely a lie. It's effectively impossible. A few companies will do it, but most will never, ever, ever be able to do it or sustain it reasonably for a long time. They're not actually the original creators. I'm sure there might be an original creator somewhere on Redis, still probably there. Except Linux. Yeah, Linux is, that's why I said there probably is something there. Certainly, today we've encountered peculiar issues because of capitalism, yet alternatives prove more detrimental. When open source projects becomes monetized, it's for specific reasons, either greed or necessity. It's important not to overlook the fact that many companies also benefit from this, period. It's true. Many companies benefit from it. I don't know. I have a really hard time siding with either side in this one. LLM take, he used certainly. Fact. The success of Redis has created a unique set of challenges. Redis has been sponsoring the bulk of development alongside a dynamic community of developers eager to contribute. However, the majority of Redis's commercial sales are channeled through the largest cloud service providers, who commoditize Redis investments and its open source community. I wonder what company they're talking about. What company could be commercializing Reddit or Redis like this? I mean, it feels bad. I mean, maybe Redis should have done this for themselves, but despite efforts to support a community-led governance model, our desire to maintain the BSD license, delivering multitude of software distributions simultaneously across open source available, and commercial software optimized for different on-premise and cloud platforms, is at odds with our ability to drive Redis successfully into the future. Under the new license, cloud service providers hosting Redis offerings will no longer be permitted to use the source code of Redis free of charge. For example, cloud service providers will be able to deliver Redis 7.4 only after agreeing to licensing terms with Redis, the maintainers of Redis code. These agreements will underpin support for existing integrated solutions and provide full access to forthcoming Redis innovations. So one problem I have with people getting up in arms about this is the amount of people always yelling about companies needing to pay their fair share when it comes to open source. Okay? I know, but look at what it said. It said, if a company uses this, if cloud service providers uses it, then they have to agree to these terms. Does this account for individuals? That's what I'm missing here. Because if individually, then and developers don't have to pay anything, that are just using it for themselves, I don't see why people are as much up in arms about it. They're reselling it. Yeah, they're reselling it, right? Am I completely off base here? Individuals are not cloud service providers, right? One would assume. Real talk? Am I completely off base in this thinking? Because I'm trying to rationalize why people constantly say how commercials needs to support open source software. Open source software makes license change to force commercials to support them. People say you're a jerk for doing it. I'm trying to figure out where the problem is. Yeah, older versions are still under there. L take for lovely take. People just like the bitch and moan. I read it as no change for developers. If you're just a developer using it individually, then I guess that's the real question. I want to know if that happens. So instead of continuing on down this route, because it doesn't look like this is all just like in practice, nothing changes for Redis developer community, who will continue to enjoy permissive licensing under dual license. Okay, so the community, Redis developer community. So at the same time, all Redis client libraries under the responsibility of Redis will remain open source license. Redis will continue to support the vast partner ecosystem. So is that saying what I think it is? Is that, yeah? Redis will continue to support its vast partner ecosystem, including managed service providers and system integrators, with exclusive access to all future releases, updates, and feature development are developed and delivered by Redis through partner program. Hey, man, there's a bunch of useful information on this page, but I think you should just sign up. Okay, hey, do you want to sign up? Hey, you want to fill in this form? Hey, this form's right here for you to fill in. Just why don't you fill it in? I was just wondering what the partner program is. Welcome to the Redis partner program. When innovation meets collaboration, would you have like an LLM try to be a LinkedIn shitposter? And businesses thrive on the foundation of speed, performance, and flexibility. Enterprise matters, and Redis partners understand your business needs inside and out. They deliver tailored solutions, ensuring you get the most out of Redis and best-in-class technology stack. Scale smarter and faster with the support of our global partners. Find a partner. I know there's a lot of Arch users that could use this button in their life. That might have been the harshest thing said on this stream. Anyways, all right. So let's watch this video. Because now, okay, so now we're all on this page. As far as I can tell, there's no change to the individual developer hosting their own Redis for their own site, doing something. There's only changes to commercial. We get it now. And people are up in arms saying Redis is crazy. Man, I hate to... I feel like I'm... How do I feel like the bad guy for saying this? Feels really hypocritical of most people that complain about open source.
What if I told you that Redis was not actually created by Redis? If you were confused right now, you were in for a ride.
Okay, so maybe there's something more that I don't understand here that actually makes this more interesting. Okay, so we got to let this guy cook. So this does show that maybe we got something. Okay, I could be wrong.
It ended in the very recent events of Redis changing their license to actually not be open source anymore, and scamming their community, contributors, and even the founder of Redis himself. It all started in 2007, when Salvador Sanfilippo, better known as Antires on the internet, was building a tool called LLOOGG. It was a very early competitor to...
Is he competing with Minecraft?
Google Analytics. The main selling point of LLOOGG was their real-time visitor tracking feature, which Google Analytics did not support until years later. Because of the massive amounts of data written to the database, they ran into performance issues using MySQL. Antires believed that using memory instead of the hard drive to store the data, like MySQL does, would solve the problem and...
Yo, dummy, why don't you just use the memory instead of the disk? Of course. Of course it's faster. Duh, you dummy. What do you think, dummy? What if we lose power?
Programmed the first prototype of what we will later know as Redis. In 2009, Antires published the Redis core on GitHub. To say it with his own words, at this point the server may not have been perfectly stable, but soon it will be an essential part of many web applications and massively impact how we design modern software architecture.
That is really great foresight. I didn't realize the origin story. I didn't know the origin story to Redis, so that's pretty impressive that he was able to say, like, yeah, this is going to become increasingly important. That is one big arrow, by the way. This is a statistically non-average arrow, for those that are wondering.
To this day. The first Hacker News posting of Redis did not get much attention at all. Only 23 upvotes and a few comments. But Antires continued to work on Redis. And soon, Redis started to spread in the Ruby community and attracted startups who will later turn out to be unicorns. Instagram was entirely built on Redis in its early years.
Wasn't early Redis just purely an in-memory key value store? So how did they have any? Was there no historical? I didn't use Instagram in the beginnings. So does that mean there was no like historical data to Instagram? Like every time it went down, it was just like everybody starting over. Everyone sign up with the new account. Instagram just didn't have a database. Oh, S3 buckets. Okay. Did it just jam a bunch of stuff into S3 buckets? Redis does write to disk? Okay. So it does periodically rsync? Okay. It's eventually consistent, so you may lose a little bit. Okay. I thought back then Redis was purely just an in-memory one. Okay, I didn't realize that it also synced with disk and had like a refresh state. Okay. That's cool. Yeah, I don't see why you couldn't do that. Let's go. Talk about some scrappy coding. What was it? $32 per user that Instagram sold for? I can't remember how much Instagram sold for, but it sold for just an incredible amount of money per user.
GitHub used it to build a job queuing system, and Twitter improved their timeline page performance using Redis. After gaining more popularity, VMware started to sponsor
very few
Redis
engineers.
and hired Antiraz to continue his work on the in-memory database.
Oh, nice.
In 2013, he got sponsored by the VMware spin-off Pivotal Software. In the same time period, around 2011, companies started to offer consulting services for Redis.
Oh, there's a second big arrow here. Okay, we have conflicting arrows.
One of them was Guaranteer Data, which will play an essential role in this entire story. In 2014, Guaranteer Data tried to rebrand to Redis DB, but after the pushback of Antiraz, they reverted the rebranding and rebranded to Redis Labs instead, which is still very confusing. Around this time, Redis Labs also transitioned away from offering consulting services and focused on providing hosted Redis services on top of AWS instead. In 2015, a common investor of Pivotal Software and Redis Labs suggested moving Antiraz to Redis Labs, which employed him shortly after that and sponsored Redis from this point on. Investors play a crucial role in Redis Labs, because that company is stacked up with VC money. They
raised 347 million US dollars. Damn. That screen tearing, hey, the screen tearing is for free. For you.
Raised over 347 million US dollars in 7 rounds from Goldman Sachs, the Silicon Valley Bank, and
Silicon Valley Bank mentioned? Let's go. Let's go.
more. To set this into perspective, if we wanted to just fund the open source project with, let's say, 5 developers, each a salary of $400,000 a year,
Healthy.
this would come to $26 million over the span of 13 years. Less than a tenth of the funding of Redis Lab.
Okay, so I think I'm starting to understand why this license change was as bad. I did not know about a lot of these. I didn't know about some of these changes, which makes that thing seem a little bit different, right? There's some change here. So, maybe I am the asshole. Maybe I am truly the asshole here.
Labs. After Antiraz transferred over the Redis IP and trademarks to Redis Labs, he left the project in 2020. In a blog post, he explained the reasons for stepping back. He never wanted to be a software maintainer and used code to express himself. But what
Giga Chad. Who wants to maintain that code? Who wants to maintain that one? I just want to express myself in code. I just want to say how I feel with my code. Dude, chatted. Anti-Rez is the real deal. Yeah. Well, I mean, he did predict how useful Reddit would be and created Reddit and did it. So yeah, you can't dunk on the guy for not actually. He expresses himself very well in code.
one quote
Reddit. Sorry, Redis. Did I say Reddit?
inside of his goodbye blog post hits quite a lot harder today. I believe I'm not just leaving Redis in the hands of a community of expert programmers, but also in the hands of people who care about the legacy of the community spirit of Redis. In their goodbye blog.
It's kind of funny. You know, this is sometimes where politeness is kind of goofy. I'm leaving this in the hands of the people who care the most. And they kind of, it kind of feels like he got bamboozled. I'm not gonna lie to you. There's kind of a bit of like bamboozling going on here.
Redis Labs stated that the core of the Redis project will remain under the 3-class BSD license, as it has always been. But this will only hold true for a few more years.
Yep.
Redis was now led by a team of 5 people. 3 of them are from Redis Labs. One of them from
I can see why they needed I see why they needed $340 million.
Alibaba and one from AWS. 1 year later, Redis Labs officially rebranded to just Redis.
That's
which
right, because they
clearly
own
is what they wanted all along. Redis, the company, was still developing hosted Redis services on top of popular cloud providers, essentially.
Dude, this backdoor, this was a bigger backdoor than XZ. Like real talk. This was the long pull right here. This is an actual rug pull.
competing with AWS Elastic Cache. And we'll find out soon that they were probably not very successful in doing so, or at least not successful enough. While the Redis core team remains small, Redis the company
Redis core team remains small. 700 employees? Okay, you know, this could be me being ignorant. Hey, I could be ignorant. Hey, real talk, I could be ignorant. But that just seems like a lot. 650 Scrum Masters, lots of Scrum Mastering. 700 is small? Yeah, but okay, 300 of them are salespeople. What are the other 400? How many people? It seems like it's you know, again, this could just be ignorant speaking. You know, sometimes you think you're like, it shouldn't be that big, but then you realize like, okay, that's why it's that big. But
has grown to over 700 employees today.
Man,
I could not even make up roles for all of those people if I wanted to, but browsing through the Wayback Machine snapshots of the Redis website makes me think quite a few of them were busy updating the web design a concerning amount of time. And on March the 20th, 2024, the day arrived where VC money defeated open source in the company.
Yep.
Redis announced in a blog post that they will move away from the 3-class BSD license to a dual licensing model, which basically means that they offer it under 2 different licenses and you can choose which is the lesser evil. While the 3-class BSD license is one of the approved ones by the Open Source Initiative, the new licenses are not, which they acknowledged in the announcement. Therefore, Redis will no longer be called open source. Before I continue,
by the OSI definition. So that means, yeah, because they're referring to themselves as source available, meaning that you can look at the source. But it also means that you can fork the source. Can you fork the source? If you fork the source, you can't change the license, right? So you can only fork the source starting from 7.4. Not anymore. You can't even look at it. Fork the source, change the license. Can you do that? You can fork source and profit from it. I don't think you can do that. It's just text. I don't think that that's how it works. I'm try to stop. I don't need to try to stop you. But you know that lawyer that's gonna just take you to pound me in the ass prison? They're gonna be the ones that stop you. I'm just saying. It's a little bit difficult to be like, it's just some text. I just did a find and replace. I don't know. Valky already forked it, yeah, but they must have forked it at 7.4, right? They forked it under the BSD license, thus it's legal to fork it at that point. And now you can do it. Office Space mentioned, that is Office Space mentioned. Social credit score minus 100, yeah. Yes, correct. They forked it at a time in which was allowed to. Okay.
I have to say, I am not a lawyer and
Shocking.
This is not legal advice in any way. The new licenses are called Server-Side Public License and Redis Source Available License 2.0. The SSPL was originally created for MongoDB and requires everyone who uses SSPL licensed software as part of a service to release the source for the entirety of the service.
Hold on. With a modified 13 that requires making SSPL licensed software available to third parties, modified or not, as part of a service must release the source for the entirety of the service. So MongoDB had this as a license. Did people that used MongoDB, like... Oh, does that mean if you use the source code? That's different. That's different than... It's different than using the product versus using the source code, right? But I guess how do you use the product without a bit of the source code on there, right? It's kind of hard, right? Because you kind of need like the thing that communicates to the item, which is probably a part of this viral licensing. I've heard about these viral licensings that are very dangerous. Yikes.
Including without
That's
limitations.
Crazy.
All management software, user interfaces, application program interfaces, automation software, monitoring software, backup software, storage software, and hosting software. All such that a user can run an instance of the service using the service source code you made available. Well, this sounds like a nightmare, especially if you have some sort of proprietary licensed software in your stack that you simply cannot open source for legal reasons. After the SSPL was submitted to the Open Source Initiative as they wanted to become an approved open source license, the Open Source Initiative made a hit piece calling it a FoxPen source license, because it restricts who can use it.
Yeah, that's rather wild. This is a hit piece. Dude, that... You know, this is the part of software that, like, I literally have no idea about. It's supposed to be faux pen, right? F-A-U-X is faux. But you know what's kind of wild is that I wonder if you could make like a viral hit in Node with, you know, because you know how many NPM packages there are? There's like literally a cajillion NPM packages. I wonder if you could just... How could you do that? If you rebase and throw in something in the past, is that... And you made it like a... Or you didn't even have to throw it in the past. You just threw it in there, and you threw it as like 1.01, so it automatically gets updated in people's code. And then they use it, and if they use it, they have to open source it. It's kind of wild. Like, is even SSPL... Dude, I know. How funny would that be? It need to be fair? What needs to be fair? This isn't a real attack? And no one is really enforcing it? Well, I mean, what happened if you could? I'm just saying, this stuff is super, you know, I knew this stuff basically existed. Yeah, a viral license bomb. Dang. Kind of wild. Viral license bombs. Version attacks like that exist. I know, it's kind of, this is like, yeah, a supply chain license attack. Yeah, you know, exactly. I mean, that's the thing is people are going to make a whole... There's going to be a whole cottage... Can there be an entire cottage industry of people making somehow money lawyering off of these type of license changes? I don't know. It's kind of wild.
The other license in question is the Redis Source Available License 2.0. This license does not require you to publish the source code, but it restricts who can use it directly. In the license terms it says, you may not make the functionality of the software or a modified version available to third parties as a service, or distribute the version or a modified version in a manner that makes the functionality of the software available to third parties. Now again, I am not a lawyer and this is not legal advice, but this sounds like a very vague definition to me. And when
you may not make functionality of the software or a modified version available to third parties as a service, or distribute the software or modified version in a manner that makes the functionality of the software available to third parties. It is vague. So how did they fork it? They forked it at 7.4 or whatever was the last one. It is extremely vague, right? I can understand why people are saying this is extremely vague, right? Me putting on my various lawyerings hat and my bird law hat, meaning I'm not a lawyer, but just me trying to logically argue out exactly what this means, I cannot come up with an exact thing, right? Meaning that, let's see, or distribute software or a modified version in a manner that makes functionality of the software available to third parties. What does that mean? Like, does that mean if somebody in a third party logs in and the logging in uses Redis, that's like making functionality available to a third party, which means have we just hit ourselves into a problem? This feels like bird law. Okay, again, my various lawyerings. Yeah, so that's people are saying that's the point that their lawyers want it to be as vague so they can define how they want it in court. Yeah, I mean that is part of the problem with this. I think it's also hard to make it stand up in court because whenever you do something, I mean the problem is when something is so vague, it's very hard to make it also stand up in court. But yeah, but the judge gets to decide. Yeah, that's the hard part. Yeah, I would probably not touch this with a 10-foot pole, right? Like this sounds wildly, even though it's only $5 a month.
Or distribute the version or a modified version in a manner that makes the functionality of the software available to third parties. Now again, I am not a lawyer and this is not legal advice, but this sounds like a very vague definition to me.
Yeah, it is
and
very
when
vague.
we look at the FAQs for Redis modules, which were already relicensed to the same licenses before, they state multiple times that the change should not affect you. But if not even Redis themselves can tell me with certainty, who can? No matter where exactly the limits are, it is very clear that under none of the new licenses, cloud providers like AWS will be able to provide hosted Redis services without paying a fee, which
I mean, again, I think that we can all agree that that's probably, in some sense, fine. Right? I don't know. Is that fine? Man, I have such a hard time going back and forth on this one. But I mean, AWS now forked it. And now that they've forked it at 7.4 or whatever it is, it's just like, that's... Valky's already out there. I know everyone's okay with AWS taking the L, right? You should never make a rule in your head because you know that one big company can get screwed, right? Like a generally good rule of thumb is you should try to think through a problem and what its implications are. Not that we all can't agree that like, yeah, make Amazon pay, right? Like, sure. But you got to think through the problems and what does it actually mean to the people that aren't Amazon. Because once you do it with the big company, it keeps on going, right? It doesn't stop at Amazon. Amazon's just Amazon's the precedent that wins all the future cases, right? And that's where things kind of get in the murky waters. And so Amazon isn't going to eat that price. Yeah, I don't think they will. That's why it is a problem. That's why this is a problem. Shit flows downstream. Yeah.
which was obviously the goal. But it is also important to note something else. If Redis would have had this license from the very beginning, Guarantee Data would have never been able to offer the services in the first place without open sourcing their entire infrastructure. They destroyed the very thing that made their company exist in the first place.
Yeah, that's a fair take. Okay, you know what? I have officially changed my stance. I have officially changed my stance. This is a rug pull. I played myself like a fiddle. Hey, I'm willing to be wrong. I'm always willing to be wrong. It's a scumbag move. They themselves profited off of something in which they then in turn were able to capture the whole thing, maybe potentially just due to how close their naming was and however the VC incest party went that caused those two people to like work together. Right? I mean, the fact that the original Redis guy sold all the IP or whatever happened, I mean, he just wanted to cash out, it sounds like. He wanted to be done with this crap. I don't probably blame him. Probably was like hugely political, super, super awful. Not something you want to be a part of, not something I want to be a part of. I think we can all give the original creator a free pass here. I'd take the money too, right? If anyone thinks they're like on this moral high ground that they would have been like, I would have stood up for truth and justice. It's like, nah, you wouldn't have. No, you wouldn't. Okay, you really would not have stood for truth and justice. Okay, you know, all heroes costumes eventually wear out. Yeah, I'll stand for it after I get the bag. I'm gonna get the bag, and then I'm super angry that they did it. Right? All right. Hold on, someone just posted a good comment here. All right, it's time for a solid fork with custom restrictions banning Redis labs from ever using the new code from new forks. Let's starve them. Yeah, I would actually say that you theoretically could do this. And how you would do this is you would have to create a public fork. I mean, can we be real here for a quick second? Amazon is most certainly profiting the most from this. Okay, they're the ones that are going to be able to effectively make it out like a bandit while everybody else carries the tax, right? They're the true winners in this situation because they're the ones that are going to be like, oh, man, we're going to give you guys $100,000 a year. Hey. Yeah, and they're gonna be just like, hell yeah, sponsored by Amazon. They're like, for 5 years, too, correct? We're gonna make $1 billion off this shit, right? Because that's their most profitable center is AWS. They make just inordinate amount of money off of it. Sponsored by Pfizer and Amazon. Don't forget to get your new migraine medication. Anyways, let's see. Honestly, I don't care if Redis would use code from the new fork. It's open source for a reason. We can't become the thing we are bashing. And blocking Redis from pulling commits really defeats the purpose of original license we are all upset over them removing. Man, this guy's... We found an honorable individual. Gilda was just like, yo, fuck that guy. Principle to a fault. Yeah, it's principle to a fault, which I think if you here's like kind of like my take on this one, which is that if you really want to make sure you don't become the thing you don't like, you have to even allow the thing you don't like to be able to you have to be able to even allow them to use you. I do actually agree with him. If you wanted to be fully like this is the open source one, then you'd have to make it open source for all. Right? Because once you put in restrictions, the restrictions can grow. And then, who knows? Hey, extreme ownage, principle stance, though I can see why people would be upset about it. I don't know how to apparently, am I not signed in? I'm not even signed in. What a loser. New computer still. Okay, just switch browsers. Okay, just switch Don't judge me like this. Here, shit, Firefox. Oh gosh, don't get embarrassed. What was his? It was. What is it? Ownage. Thumbs up. See, I code. I'm not just an influencer, guys. You know what I mean? I'm one of us. You know what I'm talking about, bros? I'm not a DevRel. I'm not a DevRel. Stop. I'm not a DevRel.
With the license.
By the way, that just single-handedly just like made so many people's day worse by me just dunking on DevRels. Like that alone just made a bunch of people's days worse. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you've chosen to be a DevRel. All right. Got him. All right, let's go.
Change, the AWS employee Madeline Olson, who worked on the project for 4 years, announced that she will no longer be able to work on the project and that there was a real price to pay with losing such a beloved open source project. But not only some of the main contributors are unhappy with the change. The pull request with the license change is flooded with unhappy contributors and users of Redis. Again, this is not legal advice, but Redis did just relicense code that was contributed under a completely different license, and they removed all BSD notices which are required by the 3-clause BSD license. Yeah. I cannot imagine that is what Antiwise meant when he was talking about caring about the legacy of the community spirit of.
Remember when I said polite comments? You know, this is one of those things where, you know, I talked earlier about like always being wise with your words and communicating in kind of like a polite way because you don't want to come back and haunt you. But if you have like, hey, these people are dangerous, maybe you should be willing to say that, right? They're just throwing it out there. It's definitely a balance.
Redis. With the legal uncertainty, people will look for alternatives, and it is safe to say that...
Honestly, to be real, he probably had to sign some sort of like, hey, you're going to sell out all these things, and you get all these things, but you have to leave, and you have to say good terms, and you can't say, yo, these people are a bunch of assholes, don't trust them.
That they will find them. There is already KeyDB, which is a drop-in replacement for Redis, and just a few days before Redis announced the license change, Microsoft released Garnet, a cache store that can be used with existing Redis clients. Both of them are open source. And it would really come as a surprise if AWS won't jump in as well and develop their own Redis fork as well, as they did with OpenSearch when Elasticsearch changed their license. It is really a no-brainer for anyone starting a new project to use any of the alternatives. And for the most part,
Yep.
you can probably replace them in your existing project as well, without any problems. So when the license change
Man, I feel I feel like completely bamboozled right now. I honestly feel like I haven't had this big of an emotional swing on something in a long time. I am shook right now. I am genuinely I feel bamboozled right now.
introduces so many more challenges and legal uncertainties, driving away the community from Redis. Why on earth would they do it?
It's not. First off, this video is extremely good, but it's the fact that we read only their statement without much understanding of the history, and so how many people don't? I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch of people that didn't have the history of it, and it's just like you can't understand the change of it. And so I'm eating some serious crow right now. I'm eating some pretty serious crow right now because I was out there like, and then now I'm just like, oh, it's okay, you're okay. Man, damn.
Anyways, they have to have known the consequences of their actions. We've seen those exact scenarios play.
Guys, I did have the flu. Okay, I had the flu. I was taking medication for the flu. I'm sorry for what I said.
Before. In the end, it is hard to see how this is not a big cash grab by a massively VC-funded company, where the investors finally wanted to see a return on investment.
Can I be real here for a second? Just a little quick second. Just a little quick thing. I love investments, capitalism, stock market, and all those things. But the constant drive for greater and greater returns has most certainly caused a lot of issues. And it does make me sad. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not a fool. I don't somehow think that some alternative system is just gallons ahead, right? The problem is that greed alone is bad, right? Greed with virtue. Like, if society said we don't need to make as much money, but we want to make like a good market where people can exist, like that's a good thing, right? I think we can all agree with that. But man, the unicorn internet ultra wealthy potentials has really caused like a lot of problems. And it makes me a little bit sad about it. You know what I mean? Because really what happened here is, I mean, you can just watch it happen. It's like it's this 300 and whatever $million investment coming home to roost, right? Rampant greed is damaging everything. Agreed. I mean, I think the underlying truth to this is that any of like the bad motivations, even if the initial outcome is good, does lead to a lot of problems. And a nuke.
Licensing, the co-founder Ofer Bengal stepped down as a CEO and was replaced by Rowan Trollope, who is also the person that published the license change announcement on their blog. Rowan Trollope was not involved with Redis before whatsoever. He was previously the CEO of a call center provider called Five9 and was probably put in this position by investors to finally make the company profitable.
Is this Jack Attack? Is that who we're seeing right here? Is this Jack Attack? For those that don't know the reference, what's Jack's last name? Aviato. Jack Attack was the brought-in CEO that makes the box. It's from Silicon Valley, and he comes in as Jack Attack. And Barker, the conjoined triangles of success, right? Like, is this guy dude, is Rowan Trollope? Is he the conjoined triangles of success? Action Jack Barker. Literally? Is this guy literally? No. Oh my goodness, this story somehow is actually worse than what it was before. How's it gotten this bad? Damn. I know. The fact that troll is in his name, it's just too on the nose. Is this nominative determinism? Is this what this is supposed to be? It's unreal. I know. Is this nominative determinism? Like, this has to be, right? Silicon Valley writers didn't even realize they were both saying what existed and accidentally predicted the future.
Redis, the company, will probably make a lot of money in the coming months and maybe even years from companies that use Redis deeply integrated into their stack or as a hosted service. But this comes at a cost. The cost of losing such a beloved open source project.
Hold on, I have to do something. Flip! Marker! Marker! Flip! It's a marker! Marker! Flip! Take it out! You know, he would sometimes leave those in just to mess with me. Do you know that Flip, he literally called me up and he said that he spends most of his time, he said it in more colorful language than I'm going to say it. He spends most of my time, or his time, making me not look like an idiot, just to find times to make me look like an idiot. And there's like this irony here that he lives this dual life. Or one half, he's just like, well, I got to prevent you from looking like an idiot. And then on the other side, he's like, and you're an idiot.
There is a debate to be had about the funding of open source projects, but this is not about funding. AWS and Alibaba showed that they are willing to contribute to this project by paying people to work on Redis. While there are way too many of them, this
I think the hard part I have generally with this stuff, right? Or they're just like Alibaba and Amazon are gonna, pay them to work on this product. The money in versus the money out is incredible. Like what they're getting out of what they're putting in is like an investment that any sane person would make ad infinitum. And it's one of the hard parts I have is that Redis will still, or Redis 2, whatever we're gonna call it, is still going to have a lot of, probably some very similar funding issues. And so I don't know how much it's going to change. It's always sad. I mean, I think open source is wonderful and sad all at the exact same time because there's just so many issues to begin with. They never had a funding issue. They've never had funding issues. I just somehow doubt that. I don't really know much of any projects that aren't always wishing they could have more funding, right? Open source is rough. Open source is rough.
This is not a story about failed open source funding. This is a story about a company that failed to outcompete the competition, was pressured by investors to deliver, and did so by destroying it for everyone else. As of the moment I'm recording this video, neither Anti-Res nor the two other main contributors employed by Redis the company have spoken up about the license
Is that literally Guilfoyle?
change. So we do not really know what happened behind the scenes or what their actual opinion about all of this is, but it is hard to see how they are not feeling wronged by all of what happened. If you want to find out more about the history of Anti-Res and Redis, I highly recommend you to check out this blog post, which I linked in the description down below. If you want to see what Anti-Res is up to now and better understand how he views the world, you should take a look at his blog, where he regularly posts updates on his projects. Since leaving Redis, he also wrote a science fiction book about artificial intelligence. And also one
Man's living the dream out there. Writing books. That previous one was doing something with hardware and not using a digital to analog converter. The man's out there renaissancing right now. He's probably wearing a shirt with poofy sleeves.
One more special shout out to this blog post by Momento, who I might have stolen some memes from. All the sources for this video are linked in the description down below.
I hope those memes were MIT. What happened if those memes weren't properly licensed? Then what?
This might slowly disappear over the next few years, but the art of Anti-Res and its legacy will live on. See you in the next video.
Dang, there was a lot to that. There was a lot. I was not ready for that. Damn, whoa, did you guys see that? Damn, someone's putting, I'm definitely not attracted to a bunny. Is this Lola? I'm definitely not attracted to a bunny, guys. Okay, is this furries or is this, what's her name? Is it Lola? Is that from Space Jam? Okay. Is that the Space Jam furry confirmed? Okay, it's not I'm not a furry! You're a programmer, ergo furry. Okay, there. Okay, there. Man, that was a much deeper rabbit hole than I was expecting. I take back everything I've said, and I would just like to say that I think a rabbit hole. I'm not a furry. Just because Lola makes me feel certain ways doesn't mean. I can't even look at chat. I actually can't even look at chat. You guys are redacted chat right now. This is the most redacted chat I've ever seen in my lifetime. The name is The Primogen.